What's up, people? Welcome back to the BCMA podcast. That's the Black Clover Martial Arts podcast. It's your boy Lucky from Lucky's Muay Thai. This is episode number 92. In this episode, now that the dust has settled, we'll talk about Periera's knockout of Yuri and what that means overall. And is he the GOAT, or is he one of the GOATs? Is GOAT a term still? The best? Is he the best, or one of the? Anyway, we'll talk about it. Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal happened this weekend, and it was interesting. I mean, there's a lot of other components, but that fight itself, we'll talk about that. Izzy and Dricus du Plessis had their first face-off after their press conference for UFC 305 Perth. Intense. I guess we'll talk about that too. But first, if you like the show, keep the like, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend, pass it along, leave a comment, hit that notification bell, all of those things that they tell you to do. I also drop some training footage, things like that. So if you're interested, you know the deal. Subscribe, like, pass it along. If you want to stop by the gym, hit us up, www.luckysmt.com. We'll get you in for a trial class. We have a great Muay Thai program, great Jiu-Jitsu program, and honestly, it's been 7 years and it's been a fantastic, wild ride. So if you're ready to jump on your Muay Thai journey or your fitness journey or your Jiu-Jitsu journey, whatever it is, we will accommodate. Hit us up, www.luckysmt.com, or hit me up directly at Lucky's Muay Thai on Instagram. I would love to have you come by and give it a shot. Okay, clearly I am all in on Alex Periera. I have been since the man got to the UFC. I just had this feeling that he was going to be able to do some amazing things just based off of who he trains with, the lineage, the whole thing. And man, he has proven me right. You can go back through the episodes and see where I honestly thought that this was kind of going to be his path. I did not suspect they were going to be talking about heavyweights, but here we are. So maybe there's a Tom Aspinall, and maybe there's a John Jones down the road. What I find really intriguing is that Israel Adesanya kind of predicted this for himself, and Alex is actually doing it. And I think a lot of those things have to do with timing. Alex's timing was just great with all the fights, the way he had them lined up. And also, Izzy's his attempt to move up to 205 was a little bit rough. Everybody thinks he has the frame for it, which he kind of does, but can he put on that weight and put on that and have that power translate? It's not the same as Alex, who is already a giant dude. His power is going to translate pretty easily. But just to go back a little bit, since that fight happened a couple of weeks ago, Yuri talked about Alex's shaman magic. There's a lot of talk about a lot of things, but the truth of the matter is Alex Periera is a very, very skilled fighter. He has great reaction time. He knows where his strengths lie. And so he tries to lead you to those strengths. And I think beyond that, one thing that we noticed is that you don't know everything he's capable of because we just haven't seen it in the UFC, or you haven't seen it in the UFC. I'm going to switch these. That's my guy, though. Yo, he is one of the most powerful strikers that I've seen. So the left hook alone, and I think everybody was worried about those low leg kicks, things like that. Obviously, there's a lot of tools they were worried about, but now they have to worry about this sneaky step up high kick and how beautiful it was. And what was great was a lot of those clips you see are from behind Yuri, and you don't see the kick come around his body. So clearly the kick is coming more at a tighter arc coming up to the head. Yeah, man, difficult to block that kind of stuff. And if you're not expecting it, not used to it, not ready for it because you're expecting a lot of other things that you might have trained for and not that, it might get lost in the shuffle and you might catch yourself reaching, and then you might catch yourself getting punched in the face on the ground. So to Alex's credit, he definitely was prepared, and they said they saw that in the locker room. I'm not surprised about that either. Sometimes you notice things when guys are warming up that you're just like, oh, okay, I think we can do something with that. And I think he did a great job. And Yuri should not worry about this, man. Just get back to the training and get back to fighting. Like, he's one of the best out there. He just got to put his mind right and get off of some of the expecting that it's outside forces or whatever. Maybe he was trolling people. I don't know. But like the mentality's got to be right going in, especially against somebody like that who is super, super dangerous. And you can't go in there thinking anything else but that you're going to go in there and get victory. And I hope that, after some training and, some, I don't know, soul searching, Yuri's back in there making everybody laugh and smile with his awkward ass style that gets people fucked up. Just not Alex Pereira. Okay. Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal happened this weekend, last Saturday, and the fight card was great. It was super entertaining. There's a lot of other fights on there, but this fight specifically, it did what a lot of fights are supposed to do. There was some question about, if Nate can get to the later rounds, Masvidal won't have the gas tank. Masvidal had the gas tank. Then it was, Masvidal's going to, clean Nate up. He's going to hit him with a couple of shots, and he's going to take Nate out of there because he's got good power, and he's very fast with his counters. That didn't happen either. The refs were never involved. It was literally exactly what everybody could have wanted. Nate putting on flurries of punches throughout the fight and marching forward. Masvidal taking opportunities to step around, counter shot, hit 3 or 4 good hard shots before retreating again, and Nate continuing to put the pressure on. And I think ultimately Nate got the win, but ultimately it was because of how much he pushed the fight. He put the pressure. He threw, I don't know, CompuBox numbers were weird. I heard other people talking about that, and I was looking at it, and I was like, I think some punches, I don't know exactly how it works, but there are moments where he's hitting a little bit of glove and a little bit of body or a little bit of head, and they don't count those. But he landed a lot more than what CompuBox gave him credit for, meaning Nate Diaz. And they said that Masvidal landed more, through more. I just visually, it did not look that way. So for me, I had Nate Diaz winning the fight, although I did think it was really close. And if they would have said draw, I would have been like, that's right. But I thought Nate put in a little bit. With the pressure, with the flurries, it looked like he did a little more. And I would think that the main issue with a fight like this, which was so busy, is that if the rounds can go either way, the judges are probably going to give it to the person that was putting on the most pressure. So let's say 4 or 5 of those rounds were even rounds. They're going to give it to Nate because he was marching forward throughout those rounds. And there's nothing you can do about that. It's just the way it is. If you're retreating, even if the rounds were even, if you're retreating, you're not going to get the round. You're going to get, because ring control is part of it. And having control, putting the person where you want them, putting the pace that you want to happen, all of that is looked at as part of the whole deal. So Masvidal, Nate Diaz put on one hell of a show. And I think the judges got it right. I think it could have gone the other way, could have been a draw. But I think if you just add the pressure aspect to an even fight, Nate gets it. I enjoyed it. I don't want them to run it back, but I'd like to see Masvidal fight again. Somebody was saying, I don't know. There's a lot of people out there that could fight, but I would like him to fight Jake Paul. I think that would be a great fight. Masvidal is actually a pretty big dude, I think, and he likes to put on some weight. So maybe that's a fight for him, and he actually can crack. So I don't know. We'll see. But shout out to Nate for really putting it down. And I think the lead up to this fight, people didn't know what the hell to expect. And I think people were they sold it out, but I don't think people knew what was going to happen, because I think Nate left the press conferences twice. Masvidal left once. Their teams got into fights. Nobody knew exactly what to expect, or even if the fight was going to make it to the date. But it did, and it delivered, and the fight card overall delivered. So to me, that was a win for both of them and anybody that was involved. That was solid. It was a wonderful exhibition of what could be outside of the UFC and outside of freaky boxing fights. This was a legit, even matchup, and the fight was nice to watch. It wasn't ugly. Izzy and Drickus. What a name. Listen, this face-off for UFC 305 in Perth, August 17th, was intense, and it lasted a long time. Press conference didn't do much. Izzy wasn't really on his game. Dricus was quick with the one-liners, and he was ready. He feels like a champion, and I like that in a champion. You have to feel like a champion. You have to feel like that other guy. He told him he was playing golf because that's a great retirement sport. I'm glad you found something to do when you're done with this. These are the kind of things a champion has to say, and this is how a champion has to feel when he's fighting other guys of that caliber, that ilk. Izzy, on the other hand, like I said, he didn't seem hyped up yet, but there's definitely something there. But there was a moment where in one of the videos he was like saying, and they may have edited it weird, where he was saying like, I've been here before. Yeah, this feels like familiar, or something like to that effect. And to me, I don't think you are in the right headspace if you're trying to convince yourself that you've been there before. You don't need to convince yourself. I think when he was completely focused on Dricus, you could see the fire, and maybe that'll come over the time leading up to this, but it wasn't there necessarily. At least I didn't notice it. I didn't feel it from the things he was saying or how he was approaching it. Maybe he just hasn't let it out the bag yet, but I think he even felt that it wasn't quite there yet. So I'm still looking forward to that fight. That's going to be a big one. And Dricus is like playing this sort of like, I'm an idiot. Man, I've said this in the podcast before. He's like, I didn't discredit anyone by saying that I'm the real African champion because I'm born there and I live there and I wake up there. Yeah, but if you're saying you're the one, you're saying they're not that. So that is just in itself discrediting. What he possibly could have said was, if anybody even asked him about the other African champions, he should have unified and been like, I love that all of these guys are also representing the continent, seeing how they were champions before he was, and they sort of led the way. So for him to say that he wasn't trying to discredit them seems a little bit crazy, when he could have just said, I'm happy to be mentioned with those other three champions. And it's wonderful for us to all be representing the continent. Whether they live there or not, they're African by heart and by soul and by nature. Now, doesn't that sound better, Dricus? Doesn't that sound unifying? It does. But you don't want that. It's all BS if you're saying, like, I don't understand why they're so mad. Yeah, man, you did discredit them just by saying that you're what you are and they're what they are. But you never said, I'm happy to be mentioned with those guys who led the way for me. So whatever you want to take from that, take from that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight. I hope Izzy really gets up for it. Right now, it doesn't seem like he's really in that space, in that headspace yet, but maybe he's building, and maybe this is going to be one of his biggest fights of all time because of what's in his heart is riding on this fight. That being said, that's it. I'm out. I'm about to hit Arizona for a minute. I'll see y'all back in a couple of weeks. Peace and blessings. If you want to stop by the gym, hit us up, www.luckysmt.com. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, notification bell, all that stuff so you can receive this wonderful content. And I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.